Hi guys, I will be recording my level 100 hardcore blood necromancer guide. I've just hit hardcore yesterday night, 3 hours after the first 1000 hardcore players were announced through Diablo Twitter. And I just wanted to share this build because honestly, if you are a boomer, if you have no reflexes, if you're bad at the game, if you don't know what to do, if you're scared of hardcore, just play this build. It's super easy. It's extremely lazy once you get it going, and quite satisfying, to be honest. The main mechanic we're using is overpower. I think we can see that I have 1800% overpower damage and almost 22k life. I could have more, but I'm using a unique ring, which doesn't have a life roll. We overpower in a couple of ways. I will show you a dungeon run in a second, but just wanted to go over the main mechanics of the build. The main mechanic of the build is overpower. You overpower in 3 different ways. Let's be fair, 4. The first way we overpower is here on the blood surge. This is our main damage skill for clearing. It says here on the paranormal blood surge that if an enemy is damaged by blood surge, you get the nova of the blood surge, the second part of the attack. We gain a stack, and when we're at 5 stacks, we overpower. I'll demonstrate this really quickly in a second. So basically, all the time we're watching the stack of the blood surge. Blood surge has 2 components to it. First is like pooling of the essence, and then there is a nova. So let's see if we can see the pooling. See, this was the overpower. This was not the intended one. But you can see them pulling the essence, and then there is a nova. It actually happens twice because of a legendary I'm using. So the nova hit is what increases the stack here, and it only happens once, despite it happening twice. The stack only happens twice. So now, if we use the skill, we're gonna overpower and clear the whole screen. So that's the main way we clear. The second way we gain overpowers is through the normal 3% chance that every character has. Third way is we have Ratma's Vigor. It's a keystone passive. If we are healthy for 15 seconds, the next blood skill will overpower. Blood skills are the red skills, and here is the Ratma's Vigor counter. It says 15, so you will notice even if we have no stacks in blood surge, if we go, we're gonna immediately overpower. And the stacks reset, and then it waits another 15 seconds. Similar to what happens with Bear Druid and their overpower proc on Pulverize. So this is for all blood skills, so even if we use normal left click, it's gonna overpower and it's gonna reset. That's the third way. And also Blood Mist and Blood Surge and Bloodlines work all the same way, they're all blood skills. And fourth way, the final way, we overpower with Blood Lance. Blood Lance has the similar mechanic to Blood Surge. Every 8 attacks, it's gonna overpower. So you see if we hit, it's gonna count to 8. And now the 8th one is gonna overpower. Boom. 500,000 on the normal mode with no fortify. So that's the 4 ways we overpower, and that's how the build works. I prepared the... I actually didn't prepare this. Let's do... I don't know. This one. 51. I don't want to do to rip you of a key because I'm gonna be talking. And also this is hardcore. I don't want to lose the character day after dinging 100. But it should be a couple levels above. Nothing special. It's what I've been grinding to get to 100. So we'll get there really quick, and I actually really like this dungeon, so hopefully this is a smooth run. I need more time. So the first thing we do is when we enter, just so you guys know how the build looks like in a real environment, we have to build the fortify, because the way overpower works is it is like a hit on top of your normal hit. It's not visible, but it is like that. And it takes your HP, your life, and your fortify. So if we have full fortify, we're actually hitting for twice as much. So we're using left click to generate fortify, and the blood orbs as well. We have a lot of fortify generation, so that's just a couple seconds and we're off to the races.
I need more time.
Very lucky with the conduit shrine, but it actually sometimes is actually it slows us down, if I'm honest. Alright, so we have the Ratmas Vigor at 15. We go into a pack, we press, all the normal mobs die, and then we keep spamming W just to get those overpower procs. Actually, I'm hunting for rings, so I picked it up. So yeah, we're building some stacks on trash mobs, so we don't need to care about the stragglers, we just keep going. And as you see, the normal mobs just evaporate entire screens. They're just gone. We only care about elites, and we just keep spamming the W key, standing in everything. We don't care. You see me not struggling with essences because there's quite okay density here, but on lower density mobs we sort of struggle. We don't replenish. Normally, we don't replenish the essence with left clicks. We use Iron Maiden. We use Iron Maiden to curse them, and that gives us essence. I will show you. Use a couple lances and to find this mob. If I curse it, it's gonna give me a little bit of essence. And the more mobs, the more essence we get. Iron Maiden also can be spammed like crazy. It doesn't cost any essence, so just if you're ever low, just curse the pack and you're back to full. Hopefully I'm gonna show this. And now we're kinda low. There's some mobs, we click and we're back to full. As you can see, we deal absolutely no damage if we're not poison. If we're not overpowering. So that is definitely an issue of the build. You need to sort of live with that there is no damage outside of overpowers. And yeah. So here we can demonstrate this is like a bigger mob. We have 15 Ratmas Vigor. We're gonna use Blood Mist because it actually also overpowers on every tick. And it's sort of like pretty good single target. So you see me using the curse sometimes to replenish the essence. I'm honestly overdoing it most of the time because the build is semi-self-sustainable, but it's just what I'm used to between the casts. Also interesting, this is a lethal shrine, so it's gonna guarantee over crits, but the crits don't really do much for us. Because the overpower portion can't normally crit. There is a possibility to make it crit via weird interactions with uniques, not uniques, legendaries, but this build is not using that. Also, we're cursing because we're amplifying damage using the amplified damage, and I'm pretty sure it's actually working. Okay, that's it for the ski. So yeah, that is that. Let's see. This is how the dungeon experience is. Let's go through the build and how you can actually replicate this. So there was no boss, so we were not using Bloodlines, but usually Bloodlines is really good on bosses. That's why it's in the build. If you don't like it, you can skip it. Okay, skill tree. We put 1 point in hemorrhage, and we only care about this initiate hemorrhage. This is the way we build fortify if we run out of it and we don't have any blood orbs. And also, most importantly, this skill has a chance to form a blood orb, 20% on hit. And we really care about blood orbs because that's one of the ways we can scale the damage. Turns out, at least I'm fairly certain it can. All of my experience points to this, that it actually scales overpower damage from damage when consuming a blood orb. But overpower damage is a little weird, so some stuff I say might be wrong, and please don't crucify me. This a really weird mechanic, and most of the stuff that you have does not scale overpower damage actually. Okay, then we invest into Blood Surge. You want 5 points, and most importantly, the Paranormal Blood Surge. It also heals you, so that's how the build sort of sustains itself. This is just wasted points. You don't need it. You can put it anywhere you want. Those 3 points in unliving energy, and the Blood Lance. This supernatural Blood Lance to also guarantee overpowers. This is secondary. You don't need this initially. Just put points there if you feel like you're in a good place. Blood Mist, I put 5 points here because I don't know where else to put them, and only one point here to make it so that our overpowers reduce the cooldown of Blood Mist. It's not really even that necessary, to be honest. Yeah, Blood Mist level 1 is perfectly fine. Iron Maiden, this is a key skill for the build because it serves as the most important for the early game until you get this setup. This solves your essence problems on clearing, not on bosses, but on clearing, because of this node here, Enhanced Iron Maiden. It no longer costs essence, instead you gain 5 essence per enemy cursed, but it doesn't work if they're already cursed. So you only get like 1 refill per pack, or you have to wait 10 seconds to refill it. And also, I used to run without this, and it's pretty bad, I think, to run without this. This helps insanely in your sustain. Basically, if they are cursed, you immediately go up to 100 after clearing a pack, which is really good because, as I mentioned, we actually scale damage with our HP. So that's why we have like almost to 22,000 HP. Amplify damage, extremely important. I think it works. Not 100% if it works with overpower, but I'm fairly certain it works. Death's Embrace, this is most importantly less damage to you from close enemies. Death's Reach, I don't know if this works. Stuff on gear doesn't work for distant damage, but I think on skill tree it does work with overpower, so I'm picking it up. Here we want everything except for the transfusion. Transfusion makes it so that our blood orbs heal minions. Everything else you max. Most importantly, here, coalesced blood. This makes it so that we deal more damage with blood skills while we're healthy. I'm fairly certain this works with overpower. And also, the blood skills deal increased overpower damage if you're healthy. I mean, if you're healthy, it's doubled. Here, it's also a very important node, and I would say this is like key node for the build. It makes it so that we can sustain our fortify, and our fortify is our lifeline, and it's also our damage. So definitely pick this up, and lucky hit is actually kind of big, partially because of this node. Then we get DR because we're not using any minions, and since we're sacrificing all the minions, we're amplifying this with Memento Mori. Bone Storm, this is the latest addition to the build. I wasn't using it for the longest time, and I think it's definitely worth it because of the legendary power that gives barrier, but it's mostly for very sketch situations. The 15% DR is obviously extremely good, but we mostly use it for the purposes of the barrier. The barrier is really good, especially if you're facing mobs that chain CC you. You pop this and you sort of have 10 seconds or about 10 seconds of immortality. And finally, Ratma's Vigor, the reason we're playing this build, is extremely good. It increases our max HP, which we're always looking for, and it gives us overpowers. So that's it for the skill tree. If you were to change something, I would change here. Those 3 nodes are very free, and you can also unspec Blood Mist, but most of it. Keep one rank at least. I'm playing hardcore, so I really like the lower cooldown, but it's really not a big deal. All right. Gear. What exactly? Oh, Book of the Dead maybe. We sacrifice everything. For defenders, we sacrifice for skeletal warriors. We sacrifice defenders because of the non-physical resistance. We're playing hardcore, so we care about the DR. And nothing else really is appealing to us because we don't deal shadow damage and we don't deal critical strikes basically at all. For skeletal mages, this is actually kind of huge. This is increased overpowered damage. We always are looking for ways to increase our overpowered damage, so it's really good. And for a golem, so until I got to Torment, to World Tier 4, I was running Blood Golem instead of Bone Storm, and I think it's actually good. The Blood Golem with 15% DR is really strong, really good defensive layer, and he also can heal itself with the skill, so that's really good. And yeah, I think Blood Golem is really good for this build. It's only that it kept dying when I got to World Tier 4 because I have 0 investment in it. Maybe you could put those 3 points if you prefer it. You could put those 3 points from Unliving Energy and put them into Golem HP. So maybe it dies less then. But I was just so annoyed by it dying because every time there was actually a difficult scenario where I needed the DR. The Golem was dead for it because it was a difficult scenario and it got killed because there was like, I don't know, 7, 8 elites and they were dangerous elites. So that's when I needed it because otherwise I don't need it, and that's when it was dead. So I dropped it for max HP, and max HP is damage, so that was not that hard of a choice. So that's the Book of the Dead. I recommend you run with the Golem initially because the 10% is not that significant and the Golem actually pulls its weight early on. Gear, ignore this. We only care about what's here. First of all, you want overpower damage, you want HP, and you want armor. We have this much armor with no potion. That's 77% damage reduction on physical, and half of that, and a lot of resistances. I am honestly not sure how this works. We achieve this through, and it's a level 100, so it's like very scaled. So it's quite hard, I think, to get to this number, and we're getting to it by prioritizing armor percent on gear and by prioritizing flat armor on Paragon board. This is our most important defensive layer, and it's extremely broken, so abuse it. Okay. Most importantly, on the gear are 2 things, and before you get them, the build feels a little bit clunky because it has essence problems. It's constantly running out of essence because Blood Search costs like 35 essence, I believe, baseline. Here it costs 27 because we invested in some essence cost reduction. But most importantly, I think the biggest game changer is this ring, Mother's Embrace. I'm not sure, but I think I sort of remember getting it from finishing the campaign from the Lilith initially, but that was on my softcore character. So here I skipped the campaign, I didn't get it, I just dropped it naturally. I got like 3 of them through leveling to 100, so it's not like super rare, but it's definitely not super common. Actually, I got like 5 probably. I started salvaging them. So what we care here is the unique power, of course. If the core skill hits 5 or more enemies, 40% of the resource cost is refunded. So that's extremely huge. We go from 27 essence cost into like 15 or 17, something like that, if we are hitting multiple enemies. So that's why you don't care about the stragglers, and you sort of suffer on the single target on the bosses. That's why we have Bloodlance. So yeah, this ring is good. It has overpower damage, which we always care about. All stats is good for the Paragon boards and for willpower, which is our most important stat, I think. And yeah, lucky hit chance is also a cherry on top because we actually care about lucky hit because of the fortify and because of one other mechanic, and I'm gonna get to that now. So on gloves, there is a possibility to roll lucky hit up to 5% chance to restore X amount of primary resource, and it's extremely huge for this build because you're hitting basically you're hitting the entire screen twice. because there's a legendary power that makes Blood Surge hit twice. So you're having a lot of hits, and actually each cast of Blood Surge hits 4 times if you also hit with the Nova. So if you can get this lucky hit to proc semi-consistently even, together with the Mother's Embrace unique ability, you're almost self-sustaining, just spamming Blood Surge all the time. And remember, you need to spam it 5 times and hit with the Nova component to get the overpower. So we're really spamming this a lot, and our essence is 109, and this costs 27. So the entire bar of essence is not even enough to get through one cycle, and you saw me just pressing the button all the time. I'm just spamming it. The other thing you can roll on the gloves is obviously overpower damage. That's super huge, but we mostly care about ranks to Blood Surge. You want to get 3 plus 3, and then upgrade it, and it becomes plus 4. Upgrade it to 5 out of 5, I mean, the item. And yeah, that is the most important. Willpower is important because willpower is overpower damage, so we care about that, and also some Paragon nodes, the keystones double in size if you have enough willpower. So willpower is always good. So yeah, those are pretty bonkers gloves. I think we care about the rank of the skill because from all my testing, the overpower damage actually scales with the percentages presented on the skill. I'm not sure if this is correct, but all my testing points to it because the same overpower from Ratman's Vigor deals different damage on Hemorrhage, on Blood Surge, on Blood Lance, and on Blood Miss. All of those are different, and they should be the same because my HP and my Fortify doesn't change. So I think there's definitely merit to increasing the rank, but I'm not 100% on this. It just seems to me like this. I didn't do like very significant testing here. Other than that, other than those items, for the stats I mean, you just want defensive pieces. Armor, HP, damage reductions on whatever. Damage reduction from close, damage reduction while fortified, damage reduction while injured, damage reduction, I don't know what there are, but just pick up all the damage reductions. Here you see this is not a very good piece because the damage reduction from affected by shadow damage over time is completely wasted, but the armor roll and the life roll is good enough that I'm sticking with it for the time being. I'm actually looking to improve this piece. I'll briefly go over each item. We also care about damage after picking a Blood Orb because it's really good for single target. But it's like extremely secondary. All you want is if you can roll overpower damage, just roll overpower damage. So max life, max armor, Blood Orb damage, and some resistance. It's whatever. The resistance is really bad. Here we went through. Here is also life, armor, damage reduction while fortified, damage reduction when injured. Boots, it's actually a little different. All you care about is movement speed and movement speed after killing an elite and essence cost reduction. The fortified generation is the cherry on top. I don't think I'm ever replacing those boots. And you want the boots to roll with max evade charges. It is a preference, but I think it's correct one for hardcore. You want more evade charges because now it's less quality of life when you're moving from pack to pack to not have extra movement speed after you dodge. But trust me, this has saved me a million times. It's really, really strong and highly recommended. Okay, the weapon, overpower damage, and that's really it, I think. I don't think any other modifiers like damage to injured or damage to close actually work with the overpower damage. They work with the base hit, but the base hit is so small, it doesn't matter at all. So I've just been looking for a high overpower damage highlight level. I don't even know if the damage of the weapon actually matters for the overpower, if I'm honest. Yeah, one more thing. This is a wand. We want wands because wands scale lucky hit chance. For the longest time, I've been running with the dagger for the close damage to close enemies, but I don't think it works. So I've dropped it for the wand, and it increased my clear speed because we proc the fortify more often and we proc the research generation more often. So the wand is really good. Shield, we are hardcore, so we're running with a shield, and it actually is, damage increase for us because shields can roll life. And if it rolls life, that means it rolls damage for us because we scale with life. This shield is pretty crazy, in my opinion, even though the eye level is not the highest. It has resource generation, which we care about, fortify generation, which we care about a lot, life, very high roll, I think, and damage reduction from distant enemies is just, cherry on top. On top of that is a good base with good thorns. Thorns are negligible, but whatever. We talked about this ring. You want high overpower damage, but most importantly, you want the 40% of the core skill hit. I think I just dropped the 40% twice out of like 5 I dropped, so it's not that big, not that hard. Life, overpower damage, resource generation on the ring. I don't think anything else matters. Most importantly, get the life roll and get the overpower damage. And neck is actually different. You want ranks to call as blood, ideally. You want movement speed, that's non-negotiable. You want armor, also non-negotiable. And damage reduction of fortified is just really good. So the damage reduction can be something else, but like a good neck would have those top 3 stats. Initially, you don't have to get the ranks to call as blood, but just get the movement speed and get the armor, and you're good. So yeah, legendary powers, maybe this is a good moment to talk about them. This is I don't know if this works, if the damage actually matters for the overpower part, but I want to believe it does, so I'm using this power on the neck. You've seen me using the blood surge, and it sort of like hits twice. It's like boom boom. So this is because of this legendary power. Normally the skill looks like this. This is just one boom, but if you put on the neck, it's like boom boom. Yeah, so it casts twice, and the second hit is weaker. And honestly, I haven't tested if this percent is like dealing 41% less damage. I don't know if this is this matters for overpower, if I'm honest. Regardless, I'm using that. I'm on hardcore, so I don't really have like that much space to test stuff efficiently, and I just wanted to get to 100 the fastest. So we use it on neck because neck has 50% bonus to this power, and that's why. On the ring, this is actually pretty huge, I think, and it's very hard to find this power, I learned. Gain X resource for every 20% of life that you heal. We heal constantly because Blood Surge heals us, and we heal from Blood Orbs, we heal from left clicks. Actually, do we heal from left clicks? I'm not sure. I don't think we do. We heal from Blood Orbs and we heal from Blood Surge all the time. Yeah, this power makes it so that we get extra resource generation on top of the resource generation that we already are doing through the Mother's Embrace and through the Lucky Hit. So that's really huge, and get the highest roll you can. It's really hard to find, in my opinion, this power. I've had terrible luck. On the shield, we take the Disobedience. Every hardcore character has to have it. Absolutely must have. Get the max roll. This makes it so that like your armor is capped basically all the time. If you continue hitting in packs, it's always capped. On single target, it's a little worse. This build actually struggles on single target. I mean, maybe I should show you a boss or something, but it doesn't struggle on single target. It's just much less fluid. It takes like 10 seconds to kill a boss usually, but the essence generation is just much worse on single target, and the armor generation from Disobedience. On the weapon, we use attack speed when we overpower. This is especially useful on single target again, because we just overpower with Bloodlance and then we spam left click to regen all that essence very, very fast because we have a lot of attack speed. And we try to actually alternate between. So we don't want the two overpowers in the row. We want this Ratmas Vigor overpower and the Bloodlance overpower to not be two in a row, because we might want to maximize the attack speed bonus from it. It's really good. Actually, this is not this power. This is the power that gives the attack speed. I'm sorry, they look similar. The percentages are similar. So this is the power that gives attack speed, and this one makes it so that if we overheal, we get extra overpower damage. Yeah, I don't know how good this is honestly, but I just couldn't find better power, so I slapped it on the weapon. On the boots, non-negotiable, I always put this here, is the unstoppable. When you're injured, we only have one source of unstoppable, which is blood mist, and if we happen to get CC twice, it might be game over. So this is must have and absolutely the best power in all of hardcore. On the legs, I put the damage reduction on basic skills. We almost never use this. I think it can be removed, but I just like the safety of it, just in case. It's good on single target as well, because we actually use left click on single target. Here we talked about, this is the attack speed after you overpower for 4 seconds. Really, really good, actually massive quality of life to this build. Barrier, we use barrier because we want to stay fortified as long as possible. We have a lot of damage while fortified stuff on the Paragon board and sometimes on gear. So we want to stay over, and also it's obviously very good survivability. And on the helmet we have the reason we take Bone Storm. Basically, if you hit something with Bone Storm, you gain barrier for your base life. This is not much because your base life is not that high, but it's still really, really, really strong. Combined with 15% DR from the Bone Storm, this makes us basically immortal, especially in packs. Yeah, very, very strong. So that's the gear. Let's quickly go over the Paragon. There is a couple key things. Maybe let's first go over the glyphs. Here I put the curse glyph amplify. Basically it increases them. I'm fairly certain it works with overpower, but I'm not 100%. We pick up the blue nodes because we actually get 100%, 150% bonus. So like 5% becomes 12.5% damage increase. And I genuinely hope this node works because I don't know. Overpower is so weird. Then we take here, this is the glyph, we take Blood Drinker. This is actually a key. Okay, the board is called, I don't know what the board is called. It's a blood board. It's an overpower board. So we take the overpower. I think this is actually like a modifier on top of the normal modifier because it's an X. So I've noticed that the guaranteed overpowers are much stronger, and I'm not sure, maybe I'm imagining things, but it seems to me that this guaranteed overpower are only these guaranteed overpowers from the skills themselves, because Ratma's Vigor consistently does less overpower damage, and I think it's because of that, but you can test this. I don't know. It's just really good. Really, really, really good node for this build. And the Blood Drinker is insane for us because it makes it so that we sustain 45 from picking up blood orbs. We don't generate that many blood orbs on the packs, but we do on single target a lot, and it really helps. And we pick up some damage while fortified, which I've been talking about before. Generally speaking, the rule of thumb is get the glyphs and the legendary nodes first. Actually, the glyphs first, the legendary nodes after, except for this one. This one's really good. And then hunt for life. Percent life is massive. And it's scattered all over the boards. Like here is a node with life. Here is a node with life. Here is we picked this board literally only because of life. And here is life. And here there is also life. So we want to pick all the percent life. This is why we have almost 22k life. It's insane. It's very, very high. It's very good defensive layer. So yeah, some sort of damage. Overpower damage, of course. Every time overpower damage is must have. Absolutely massive. There is actually a spot on another board. I think it's here. Where the overpower damage goes crazy because of this glyph. No, wait. Because of this glyph. Overpower. This is the Scent of Death board with the corpses. And it's like an insane willpower spot. We get on the max glyph of Dominate, we get 320% overpower damage. It's insane. And we also get Willpower. And Willpower is overpower damage by itself, right? So that's really good. And there is overpower on these nodes, I think. And there's armor. Armor is really massive. So you want to pick up those armor nodes as well. Yeah, overpower damage here. It's like one node of willpower actually gives us 41% overpower damage. It's just broken. And here there's life. I'm a little all over the place, but here blood orbs grant us damage. That's especially important on single target. You will notice that definitely that blood orbs grant us damage. If you pick like 3 in a row and just bloodlance a boss, suddenly you deal like sometimes twice the damage because of the modifiers on gear and stuff. It's really, really good. And here we don't have the points for the glyph. I mean, we could stretch, but I just didn't think we could pick up the glyph socket, but I didn't think we had enough points for because this is a really bad spot for a socket because of the empty spaces. And I didn't think I didn't have time to really optimize this Paragon board. So feel free to pick this glyph socket and take some good glyph. There's a ton of them. Yeah, we're talking about corpses, blood orbs, overpower. Here there is no legendary. Yeah, that's the Paragon board. Maybe I should have done this in the first place. So hopefully you can replicate this. This is the last place you go, by the way. You go like this, boom, 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 boom. And this is like just good. We only pick this because it's on the way to the life nodes. Otherwise, I don't think I would bother. And we probably should have taken this route, now that I think of it. Be more efficient. Would it be? 3 here, 3 here? Doesn't matter, I think. I don't know. So yeah, there's definitely optimization you can do here, and just feel free to experiment. And lastly, some in-depth mechanics. It is kind of hard to explain. Let's pick up a dungeon close to a portal so I can demonstrate some of that. Here. So there is quite a lot of stuff that you're gonna learn about how the skills work and how the game actually works. I'll just show you some basic stuff that I've learned. That maybe it will prove useful to you. Okay, so we start with those 15 stacks basically always because we teleport to the dungeon, and that usually takes more than 15. You see, we one-shot everything, so we didn't hit with the Nova, so we didn't get the stack for Blood Surge, so we really don't care about that. We wanted to build those stacks. So we try to find some enemies that maybe can survive the wave, survive to the wave, because the first hit is really small, but it's still overpower, and the weaker enemies just crumble. So you want to be building those Blood Surge stacks, and actually you ideally want to end the pack in this state of 4, and then it takes some travel time for the next pack. You don't have to wait for 15, but we'll just wait for the sake of like demonstrating this. And if you are like this, 15 seconds and Blood Surge at 4 stacks, then you want to find like a juicy pack, like like elites, right? Then you Blood Surge once, boom, everything goes to like 40%. That's what level 100 does. That's why they don't die. Usually they should die. And then we already have those another Blood Surge ready to just fucking destroy them, right? So that's why you don't want to be at 5 because, and I will demonstrate this what happens actually. So we didn't have Fortify, that's why they didn't die. So if you are at 15 seconds and 5 stacks, Actually, what's gonna happen is if you press Blood Surge now, the first hit of the Blood Surge is gonna consume one of them. I don't remember which one. And the second hit, the one you get from the legendary, is gonna consume the second one. But you see, those mobs are fairly low. So maybe that's not ideal. So this shouldn't work because they're all gonna die on the first wave. See, we consume this, but we don't consume the Ratmas Vigor because there were no mobs to hit. It just didn't hit the second wave. But now let's find some tougher mobs, and I'll show you that it's not that good if the mobs survive the first wave. Okay, now we're looking for some tougher mobs, some elites. So here. Oh, this is actually a perfect example because those mobs are gonna live 100%, right? Because we first gonna destroy the aura. So if I use it, you're gonna see that we only get one guaranteed overpower because the second hit uses the Ratmas Vigor proc. So that's why you want to be at 4 and 15 once when you get into the pack. This only applies to Blood Surge, weirdly, because of the legendary that makes it hit twice. If we get to 8 stacks on Bloodlance, as you can see, Bloodlance doesn't nearly have enough self-sustain to sustain itself. If we do it on Bloodlance, it's not like this. So even if we hit 2 targets with Bloodlance, like because Bloodlance actually goes through enemies if they already are Bloodlanced. So 2 overpowers, see? And even if we go through enemies, it doesn't count this as 2 hits. There's actually some juicy stuff we can do with Bloodlance. If we go to 7 and 15, and we have elites. So this is how sometimes I one-shot bosses because they have mobs behind them. So how it works is Bloodlance hits every mob that is already lanced. If another Bloodlance hits, it's a little complicated actually. I think. Jesus Christ. Maybe I should explain this first and then go to mobs. So, just fucking die. So if we go to a mob and we Bloodlance him, you see, Jesus. You see, it has a lance. So now when we hit it, the lance goes through him. So this way we can actually hit multiple enemies with Bloodlance, and they all overpower if they overpower. So weirdly, this is what I was not aware of. If this is one hit, and it gets hit by the initial hit, and then it gets hit again if the Bloodlance that went through it hits someone else. So if you overpower, you can actually overpower the same target twice if that hit overpowers, right? See? Like this. If this mob lived this overpower, it would get hit twice because this mob after it also got hit. So it would proc the overpower again. That's pretty crazy for a single target. And also, lastly, you can use Blood Mist to basically one-shot almost everything. Blood Mist is pretty crazy with overpower, but we save it because it is our oh shit button, right? It also overpowers on the entire duration, and it overpowers for quite high amounts. So yeah, that is sort of the nitty-gritty of the build, and I genuinely hope you're gonna have fun with it and that it helps you achieve 100 level in hardcore, because it's super easy. And honestly, brain dead, I felt safe all the time. The build is extremely tanky due to high HP, your ability to invest in defensive layers because you only care about overpowered damage on the damage, and everything else you just funnel into defenses, meaning life and armor mostly. So yeah, enjoy this, and hopefully this helps someone. Take care.